For this project I'm using two really soft Chanel socks. You can use fluffy socks as well, obviously you want to make it really cuddly. We want to be working with the sock inside out, so turn your sock the wrong way round. The toe of the sock will become the bunny's head, whilst up to the heel will be the main part of the body, with the heel forming the bottom. The remainder of the sock will be split in half and stitched around to create the legs. We need to be careful not to sew too closely together for each of the leg seams to ensure that we can actually cut between the two legs to separate them. I created a basic template out of a piece of paper to enable me to draw around it to create the leg shapes. We only want to sew where we have drawn. We don't want to close off the tops of the legs or seal up the gap between the legs, as this will be our stuffing hole. After stitching the seams, you need to get a pair of scissors and cut the gap between the legs. Using the small hole between the legs, we want to turn the sock the correct way around, being careful not to stretch out the hole bigger than it already is. Next you want to get some stuffing and stuff the body and the legs. You can buy dedicated toy stuffing, but you can also use the inside of a pillow or a cushion. Once the body is stuffed, we want to close up the seam. Mine has stretched slightly, so I'll have to do a bit of extra work, but this can be well hidden if you use a colour that is close to your sock. I closed up the seam horizontally and then I went back and sewed up the vertical gaps. To close the gap in the vertical seam, I took a pinch out of one side and a pinch out of another, and as you pull the string together it will draw the two sides together. When the stitching is complete, I tie it off and I pull the string through the body before cutting it off to leave the tail inside the stuffed toy. Next I want to create the neck shape, so what I do is I do a basic running stitch around the area that is going to be pulled tight to create the neck. With the second sock of the same colour, we are going to cut off the heel, which will create the mouth part for the bunny. We are next going to cut the rest of the sock in half and use the foot piece to create the ears. We are going to cut the foot part in half along the folded edge to create two flat pieces. We will then do the same with the foot part of the third sock. We want to place one part on top of the other, ensuring that the right sides are facing together before we sew it. I drew a basic teardrop shape with the top cut off to use as a template to create the ears. After stitching around the ears, leaving the narrow side open to flip it the right way round, I trimmed the excess material away from around the edges. Next, we want to flip the ears the correct way around. Now the ears are the correct way around, I want to just tuck in the end of the opening and stitch close to the edge to seal it off. Using the heel that we reserved for the mouth of the bunny, we want to place it at the base of the head and pin it in place on three sides, leaving an opening at the top to put some stuffing into it. This part can take a little bit of time because you want to make sure that you've got the mouth in the right place to where you want it to sit on your rabbit's face. Once you're happy with the placement of the mouth, you can stitch the mouth to the head. As you stitch, you want to make sure that you're tucking the raw edges inside the mouth piece to ensure that you've got a smooth finish. It's a good idea to have a play around with the ears to ensure that you put them in the place that you think they look the best. To create the arms, we get the last remaining leg piece of the sock and we use the same template as for the legs, except we make the stitching slightly tighter. After turning the right way around, we'll stuff the arms and then we will stitch across the tops to seal them up. When attaching the arms to the body, I always put the arm seams pointing inside of the body, against the inside of the body, or to the back of the body, so that it is not obvious. You want to get the right position, so find where you think it looks the best, and you want to put a pin in it to help it sit there before you stitch them in place. I push down some of the stuffing to flatten the top of the arm to help it stitch against the body easier. Once you're happy with the placement of the arms, go ahead and stitch them to the body. You want to make sure you go all the way around the arm, attaching it at every point to ensure that it isn't too floppy. Next, you want to decide on final placement for your ears. I decided that I preferred mine to be attached slightly pinched to raise them up slightly. Before stitching the ears in place, I also pinned the eyes and nose onto the face to make sure that I was happy with the placement of everything. Once I was happy with the placement of everything, I started by stitching the eyes into place. Once the eyes were stitched in place, I then brought the thread down and stitched the nose. I stitched across the tops of the ears and underneath the ears to help them stay in the right place. All that's left now is to create the little bunny tail. You can mould the sock bunny by giving it a little squeeze and manipulating the stuffing inside of it. The tail is made using a pom-pom maker, though you can wrap this around a piece of card if you do not have one. And it is just white yarn wrapped tightly in to make a small pom-pom. Finally, I attached the pom-pom to the base of the rabbit's back to create the tail. And that's it. That is the sock bunny completed. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial.